My ex-best friend began dating my crush right after pretending to help me win him over. What if the person you trusted most, the one who helped you chase your deepest crush, was actually the architect of your entire downfall? What if they were meticulously pulling the strings of a cruel, twisted game, all while smiling to your face? Because for me, the betrayal wasn't just a shock. It was an ambush that blew my entire world apart. And honestly, that was just the beginning. So last August, Hunter transferred to our school. And you guys, he was everything. Cute, smart, genuinely nice without even trying. I was utterly smitten. A massive crush from the moment I saw him. Naturally, I ran straight to my friend Valeria. I'd known Valeria since freshman year. We weren't like best friends, but we hung out, shared classes, and she'd always seemed supportive. My confidant. When I told her about Hunter, she was all, "Oh, you two would be perfect." She helped me craft texts to him, we'd dissect his replies together. She was constantly telling me to go for it. I trusted her completely, which just makes what happened next so much harder to swallow. By October, Hunter and I were talking more. He'd wait after chemistry, we'd walk to lunch. Nothing major, but my heart was absolutely soaring. Valeria always wanted every single detail, and I just thought, wow, what a great friend. I remember one time he complimented my history presentation, and I literally texted Valeria from the bathroom all giddy. Her reply? A string of heart emojis and a confident, "He's definitely into you." She even helped me pick out my outfit for the next day. We spent hours on FaceTime. My mom would tease me about spending so long getting ready, but I couldn't tell her about Hunter. My parents would have wanted to meet him immediately, analyze everything, and that would have been mortifying. In November, I finally got brave enough to ask him to a movie. Valeria, of course, helped me draft the text, telling me exactly what to say. I was so nervous hitting send I had to close my eyes. He took forever to respond, just a flat, "Sorry, busy Sunday night." Then Monday, he barely looked at me. I was so confused, my stomach churning. Then Wednesday hit. Tiffany came up to my locker, asking if I was stalking Hunter. I actually laughed, thinking she was joking, until she dropped the bomb. Valeria had been telling everyone I was obsessed with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend. My blood ran cold. I had no idea they were even talking. That afternoon I saw them. In the parking lot. His arm around her waist. She saw me looking, whispered something to him, and they both just laughed. Right in my face. The world tilted. I felt like the biggest idiot on earth. I couldn't focus on anything. Mr. Benson, my English teacher, asked if I was okay because I was just staring out the window, lost. I mumbled something about not sleeping well, and he thankfully left me alone. That night the dam broke. I couldn't stop crying. My younger brother, Rodney, heard me through the wall, asking if I was okay. I just yelled, "Period stuff," to make him go away. I was so ashamed, so stupid, I didn't want anyone to see me like that. The next day at lunch, I confronted Valeria. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my tray. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She just casually shrugged and said, "Since September." September. My heart shattered. The entire time she was helping me, they were already together. When I asked why she would do that, she just shrugged again. "I thought it was better than telling you to back off." She didn't even seem to think she'd done anything wrong. I just stood there, burning, feeling like everyone in the cafeteria was watching my humiliation. By Friday, the rumors were everywhere. According to Valeria, I was the desperate one, chasing Hunter even though I knew they were dating. She showed people our texts, twisting every single word to make me look like a deranged stalker. I started skipping lunch, couldn't bear to face the stairs, let alone the stairs. My parents noticed I wasn't eating and started asking questions. I lied, said I was stressed about tests. That weekend, Dad even made my favorite pasta to cheer me up, which just made me feel even more like garbage for lying. Then my friend Ruby sent me screenshots. A group chat. Valeria and her friends tearing me apart. And Hunter was in it. Calling me that weird girl who wouldn't leave him alone. I wanted to die. I deleted every social media app. My mom kept asking why I was so quiet, and I just blamed period cramps again. I spent all Saturday in bed watching TikToks, ignoring texts. I couldn't risk running into Valeria or Hunter. December was a nightmare. Someone spray-painted "stalker" on my locker. My lab partner Sam asked to switch, saying he'd heard things. When I tried to tell Tiffany my side, She cut me off, saying Valeria had warned her I'd make things up. In chemistry, when we had to do group work, no one wanted me. The teacher had to assign me, and the team barely spoke to me. One girl literally pulled her chair away like I had a contagious disease. I gave my holiday dance ticket to Rodney's friend, lied to my parents about homework. They started getting concerned about me becoming antisocial, but didn't push. I spent winter break hiding. My cousin visited and I barely spoke. I overheard my aunt and mom talking about teenage depression. January was no better. Valeria and Hunter would make out right in front of me. She'd send anonymous texts. Hunter thought your outfit was funny today. My dad sat me down, worried I was on drugs. I almost laughed at how wrong he was. I lied again, blaming college applications. He seemed relieved, offered to help research schools, which just made me feel worse. Then in February, someone made a fake Instagram with my photo, sending creepy messages to Hunter. I dream about you every night, we're meant to be. I was called to the counselor's office, my parents were called. No one believed me when I said it wasn't me. My mom, so confused and embarrassed, kept telling the counselor, "This doesn't sound like my daughter." But the counselor just gave her a pitying look. At home, Mom tried to have a heart-to-heart about healthy relationships. I screamed that I didn't do it, slammed my door. We barely spoke for days. The only person who still talked to me was Ruby's freshman sister, Yael. She believed me because Valeria had been mean to her before, too. One day in March, I was at Yael's house studying. She went to get snacks, leaving her Facebook open. I know I shouldn't have looked, but I saw Valeria's name in a chat with Ruby, and I couldn't help it. What I found made me sick to my stomach. Valeria had told Hunter she was pregnant to keep him from breaking up with her. She was faking morning sickness, doctor's appointments. She'd sworn Ruby to secrecy. There were messages where Ruby asked about ultrasound pictures, and Valeria admitted she just Googled them. She straight up said, "I'm not pregnant, but I need him to stay." I took pictures with my phone while Yael was downstairs. I felt guilty for snooping, but also vindicated. I had proof. When Yael came back, I told her what I saw. She wasn't even surprised. She said lots of people knew except Hunter, and Valeria had threatened anyone who might tell him. I went home that day feeling like I was carrying this explosive secret. My head was pounding. My mom asked if I was okay, and I mumbled headache, which wasn't a lie. I didn't know what to do. Meanwhile, Valeria kept ruining my life. In April, she convinced our English teacher to move my seat because I was making her uncomfortable by looking at Hunter. My parents argued about it one night, thinking I couldn't hear. Mom wanted me to switch schools, start fresh. Dad said running away wouldn't solve anything. I sat at the top of the stairs, listening to them fight about my future, my chest tight. Rodney found me there. My little brother, only 14, but sometimes he seems so much wiser. He sat down next to me and asked if I was okay. For some reason, for the first time, I told him everything. The crush, Valeria's lies, the fake pregnancy. He just listened, silent, which was so unlike him. When I finished, he just said, "Valeria sounds like a psycho. You have to tell Hunter the truth." I tried to explain that no one would believe me, it would just make it worse. He couldn't understand why I wouldn't fight back. Then the breaking point. Hunter posted this huge prom proposal for Valeria on Instagram. The caption, "Can't wait to start our future with the mother of my child." Everyone was commenting, "Congrats on the baby." I snapped. Enough was enough. I made an anonymous email, and I sent Hunter every single screenshot from Ruby and Yael's conversation. I showed him the fake ultrasound matched with the Google image. I included details only Valeria would know. I felt sick after I sent it. I couldn't sleep, just stared at my ceiling, wondering if I just made everything worse. My mom came in to check on me, saw my light was still on at 2 a.m. I pretended to be asleep. 3 days later, everything exploded. Hunter confronted Valeria. She admitted the pregnancy was fake, but somehow she spun it around, claiming I'd been plotting revenge because I was jealous, that I catfished her to get her secrets. Hunter broke up with her, but that only made things worse for me. People were disgusted by her lie, sure, but they were even more disgusted by my obsessive investigation and cruel exposure of her personal stuff. Sam, my old lab partner, said in chemistry, "Only a psycho collects evidence for months just to destroy someone." Ruby confronted me. accusing me of stealing conversations from her sister's computer, even though Yael insisted she showed me willingly. My phone blew up with texts from numbers I didn't even recognize, calling me a psycho stalker. And worse, someone made a fake Twitter account in my name, posting creepy, obsessive garbage. I showed my parents and they were horrified. Dad wanted to go to the police, but Mom said there was no way to prove who was behind it. Then last week, Valeria's parents complained to the school. I got suspended for cyberbullying, for creating a hostile environment. Hunter texted to thank me for telling him the truth, then blocked me on everything. My mom cried when the principal called about my suspension. Dad got so angry, he had to leave the room during the meeting. When we got home, they argued again. Mom saying we should have switched schools. Dad saying the school was completely out of line, punishing me instead of Valeria. I locked myself in my room, headphones on, trying not to hear them fighting about me. Rodney slipped a chocolate bar under my door with a note. "This sucks. Not your fault." It made me cry even harder. So I exposed someone who humiliated me, spread lies, trapped someone in a relationship built on a giant deception. But now I'm the toxic one. I'm the villain. Is it ever okay to expose someone's secrets if they hurt you first? Because from where I'm standing, the answer seems to be no. No matter how justified you might be. It's been a month since all that. Honestly, reading your comments after that last post made me feel less alone. Even if I'm still a mess. So much has happened. My parents are dealing with this in completely different ways. Mom's scheduling meetings with the principal, threatening lawyers if they don't fix my suspension. Dad's more quietly furious. He keeps saying the school is teaching me that standing up to liars gets punished. They argue constantly, hushed whispers when they think I can't hear them. Mom thinks the school's handling everything wrong, but she also thinks I should have come to her before sending those screenshots. Dad says I did the right thing exposing a liar, but he's worried about my college applications. They both keep asking if I'm okay, but in such different tones. Mom all gentle and concerned. Dad trying to sound casual, but his eyes are so worried. They managed to get my suspension reduced from 2 weeks to 1. But going back to school was awful. People weren't just whispering anymore. They straight up walked away when I approached. My usual lunch table was suddenly full when I tried to sit down. That first day back, I ended up eating in a bathroom stall. I know, it's gross and pathetic, but I couldn't face the cafeteria again after that rejection. I kept thinking about those movie scenes where the outcast kid eats alone. Except in movies they look all cool and unbothered. I just felt like crying the whole time. When I got home, Mom asked about my day and I lied, said it was fine. Then I threw up from the stress. Rodney heard me, knocked on the door. I told him I had food poisoning. He offered to make me toast. It was actually really sweet. The school counselor, Miss Barnes, had the nerve to suggest I write Valeria an apology letter. An apology letter. When I said no way, she gave me this look like I was being difficult. Said something about taking responsibility regardless of provocation. For what? For telling the truth? She gave me this worksheet about conflict resolution and empathy building. Questions like, how might the other person feel? And what could you have done differently? I wanted to scream that Valeria should be filling this out, not me. I stuffed it in my backpack and never looked at it again. Meanwhile, Valeria's playing this perfectly. Posting sad captions on Instagram about healing from betrayal. Learning who her real friends are. Her follower count is actually going up. She deleted all her pictures with Hunter and replaced them with group shots of her surrounded by her loyal posse. The comments are all hearts and "we love you" messages. She even posted this long paragraph about forgiveness and rising above negativity. She never mentioned me by name, but everyone knew. My mom caught me crying while looking at Instagram and took my phone away. She said social media was just making everything worse. She's probably right, but being disconnected just made me feel even more isolated. When I got back to school, I found out Ruby was telling everyone I manipulated Yael into showing me private conversations that I'd been plotting for months. Yael tried to defend me at first, but Ruby threatened to tell their parents about Yael's vaping if she didn't back up the story. Now Yael won't even look at me. I tried to talk to her between classes, but she literally turned and walked the other way. Later she texted me saying she was sorry, but Ruby would make her life hell. I told her. I understood, but it still hurt. The worst part is my parents started fighting about what to do next. Mom thinks I should switch schools for senior year. Dad says that's letting the bullies win. I hear their whispered arguments. I heard Mom crying in their room after a particularly bad one. I almost went in to comfort her, but I knew it would just make her feel worse to know I heard them. Instead, I texted her a heart emoji with no explanation. She came to my room a few minutes later and just hugged me. We both pretended not to notice we'd been crying. I feel so guilty for causing problems at home, too. Rodney, my little brother, is stuck in the middle, making dumb jokes at dinner while Mom and Dad glare at each other. He's only 14, he shouldn't have to deal with this. He tried to cheer me up showing me these ridiculous TikToks he made with his friends. They were actually pretty funny, and for a few minutes I forgot everything. Then he asked if I wanted to be in one with him. I realized I couldn't risk being on social media at all right now. The look of disappointment on his face made me feel even worse. 3 days after I went back to school, Hunter came up to my locker. He asked if we could talk somewhere private, so we went to the empty band room. I was scared someone would see us, start more rumors, but I was also weirdly happy he wanted to talk. He said he wanted to thank me for telling him the truth. He told me Valeria had him completely convinced. She'd even fake thrown up in front of him, disappearing into bathrooms, shown him ultrasound photos with his last name edited onto them. He looked so embarrassed, admitting how completely she'd fooled him. When I asked why he blocked me, he said Valeria still had access to his phone and blocked me herself before he changed his passwords. He seemed genuinely sorry, which made me feel a little better. He told me Valeria had been telling people I photoshopped all the evidence, but he didn't believe it because the conversations had details from months ago that I couldn't have known. He said he was still processing everything, felt like an idiot. Things got awkward when he asked if I'd really been obsessed with him. I told him the truth. I had a crush and Valeria knew because I told her. That's what made it hurt so much. He said Valeria told him I'd been stalking both of them since before they started dating. He looked genuinely shocked when I explained how Valeria had been helping me draft texts to him while they were secretly dating. I could see the pieces clicking in his head, him realizing just how manipulative she had been to both of us. After our talk, Hunter said he believed me, but we probably shouldn't be seen talking at school. He didn't want more drama. I understood, but it still stung. He checked the hallway before leaving to make sure no one saw us. That night I broke down completely. Mom found me crying and sat with me for hours. I told her everything. Not just the Hunter-Valeria stuff, but how lonely I'd been, how I couldn't take the isolation anymore. She kept stroking my hair just like when I was little. And for once, she didn't try to offer solutions or say everything would be okay. She just listened. She suggested I talk to her sister, my Aunt Kelly, who went through something similar in high school. I was skeptical. Adults always think their high school experiences relate to yours, but I was desperate enough to try. I called Aunt Kelly the next day. I was nervous, but she was surprisingly cool. No cheesy "it gets better" speeches. She told me about how her best friend turned everyone against her senior year over a guy, how she felt like her life was over. She said high school feels like the whole world when you're in it, but in a few years none of this will matter. Easy for her to say, she's 38 with a job and family, but it did help a little to know she'd survived something similar. Aunt Kelly suggested I focus on the people who are still in my corner and ignore everyone else. My grades are tanking. It's impossible to focus. Every time someone whispers, I'm convinced they're talking about me. I've started sitting in the back row whenever possible so I don't have to feel eyes on me. On Wednesday, I overheard Tiffany saying Valeria might transfer schools because of the hostile environment I'd created. The irony was unreal. I wanted to scream that she was the one who created a hostile environment for me. That afternoon in gym, someone accidentally hit me in the back with a volleyball. I'm pretty sure it was one of Valeria's friends, but I couldn't prove it. The gym teacher just told us to be more careful. My back had a red mark for hours. When I got home, Rodney was waiting at the door, looking weirdly excited. He said he had a plan to clear my name, involving creating a fake social media account to trick Valeria into admitting she lied. I shut that down immediately. The last thing I needed was to get caught creating fake accounts when that's what people were already accusing me of. He looked disappointed, but I explained that fighting fire with fire would just make everything worse. He grudgingly agreed but said he still thought Valeria deserved karma. I just told him, karma apparently takes vacations when it comes to popular girls. Things got weird on Thursday when Hunter texted, asking if we could meet. I was nervous but agreed. Rodney insisted on coming with me, sitting nearby just in case. It was kind of sweet, even if his protective act was ridiculous since he's younger than me. He wore a baseball cap pulled low like he was some kind of undercover agent, kept scanning the room dramatically. I had to tell him multiple times to stop staring at Hunter and act normal. He ordered a complicated frappuccino with extra whipped cream, then complained it was too sweet. The whole thing would have been funny if I wasn't so stressed. Hunter looked better than at school. He apologized for not standing up for me sooner. He said he'd been so confused and embarrassed about the fake pregnancy. He kept fidgeting with his coffee cup. He told me he felt stupid for falling for Valeria's lies. The more he thought about it, the more red flags he saw, but at the time he was just flattered by her attention. He mentioned she was always checking his phone, getting upset if he didn't respond right away. We were actually having a good conversation until Valeria walked in with 2 friends. Not a coincidence, Hunter later admitted she follows his location, and he forgot to turn it off. She made this big show of being shocked to see us, then loudly told her friends that I just couldn't leave them alone, even after everything. Rodney was halfway out of his seat, ready to confront her, but I gave him a look that said, "Don't you dare." Valeria's friends were taking pictures with their phones, and I knew this would be all over social media within minutes. Then Hunter surprised me. He actually stood up to her. He told her to stop spreading lies. He said he knew the truth now that I'd had a crush on him. She knew about it, and she went after him anyway. He knew she was never pregnant, that she manipulated everyone. Valeria immediately started crying, saying she couldn't believe he was taking her side after everything they'd been through. Everyone in the coffee shop was staring. Her friends glared at me like I'd caused the scene. An older woman at the next table was openly watching the whole thing like it was a TV drama. We left quickly. Hunter walked us to our car, thanked me again for telling him the truth, even though it cost me so much. He said he wasn't ready for any relationship right now, but hoped we could maybe be friends eventually. Rodney was buzzing with excitement the whole way home, saying Hunter was actually cool, and Valeria got what she deserved. I was just exhausted and dreading the fallout. When I got home, my parents were sitting at the kitchen table, looking serious. The school had called them. Valeria's parents were threatening to file a restraining order against me, claiming I was harassing their daughter by meeting with Hunter. They'd somehow found out about the coffee shop within hours. My parents asked what happened and I explained everything. How Hunter texted me, how Valeria showed up after we were already there, how I didn't approach her at all. Dad was taking notes, his handwriting getting messier as he got more upset. My parents had another argument that night about how to handle everything. Mom wanted to be proactive, talk to Valeria's parents directly. Dad thought that would make things worse and wanted to wait and see if they actually filed for a restraining order. I could hear them from my room, their voices rising and falling. At one point, Mom started crying, saying she just wanted her happy daughter back. That made me feel horrible. The next morning at school, someone had taped a pregnancy test to my locker. It was negative, with a note that said, "Unlike some people, I'm not a liar." A teacher saw it and took it down before most people arrived, but a few early students definitely saw it. The teacher asked if I knew who did it, but of course I had no proof. At lunch, I tried sitting with a group of girls I'm friendly with but not close to. They didn't tell me to leave, but they suddenly became very interested in their phones and stopped talking. After 5 minutes of excruciating silence, I made an excuse about forgetting something in my locker and left. The worst part is I'm starting to question myself. Was sending those screenshots the right thing to do? Should I have found another way to tell Hunter? Should I have just minded my own business and let him figure it out eventually? Dad says I did what anyone would do. Mom says she understands why I did it, but wishes I'd handled it differently. I still don't know if I did the right thing. Was it worth it? Hunter knows the truth now, but my life is a complete disaster. My family is stressed, and my last year of high school is ruined. If I could go back, would I still send those screenshots? I honestly don't know. But I'm so tired of being the villain in someone else's story. For those who asked, no, I haven't tried talking to Valeria directly. With legal threats flying around, I don't think that would help. Part of me wants to ask her why, but another part knows there's probably no answer that would satisfy me or make any of this make sense. It's been a month since my last update. Sorry for disappearing, I needed time to process everything. Thanks for all your supportive messages. The Monday after my last post was one of the worst days yet. I walked into school to find people staring at their phones and then looking up at me. Turns out Valeria's friends had posted photos from the coffee shop confrontation, with a completely twisted version of what happened. According to their posts, I had ambushed Valeria, and Hunter had defended me out of pity. The comments called me pathetic, psycho, stalker, you name it. I almost turned around and went home, but I knew that would just make things worse. Instead, I put my headphones on, blasted music, and pretended I couldn't hear the whispers as I walked to my locker. That's when I found the note. Just the word liar in big, stark letters taped to my locker. I showed it to the counselor, who basically shrugged and said there was nothing she could do without knowing who put it there. She suggested I was focusing too much on the negative and should move forward. In history class, Miss Parker assigned group projects, and no one would make eye contact with me when she asked us to form groups. She ended up having to assign me to a group, and they all looked like they'd been sentenced to community service. During lunch, I hid in the library. Mrs. Gonzalez, the librarian, has always been nice to me. She pretended not to notice I was eating a sandwich behind a book, which is against the rules, and even recommended a novel. It was a small kindness that meant more than she probably realized. That same day, I got called to the principal's office. Valeria's parents had filed an official complaint against me for harassment and bullying. They wanted more punishment beyond my suspension. They claimed I was still spreading rumors and had orchestrated the coffee shop thing to humiliate her. Principal Matthew seemed so done with the whole situation. He barely looked at me while explaining the complaint. He told me without proof of who left the note, he couldn't do anything about that, but any more incidents with Valeria would have serious consequences. When I tried explaining my side, he cut me off. I've heard enough from both sides, he said. I left his office feeling like I might throw up. I went straight to the bathroom and called Mom, crying. She came right away and demanded to see the principal. I could hear her yelling through the door. When she came out, she looked mad but satisfied. In the car, she told me she'd made it clear if the school punished me again without doing anything about the harassment I was getting, we'd be looking at legal options. I didn't tell her that made me even more nervous. The last thing I wanted was to become the girl whose mom sued the school. That would just make the target on my back even bigger. That night, we had a family meeting in the living room. Dad made it official, turning off the TV, making Rodney put his phone away. They said they were worried about how this was affecting all of us. Mom admitted she wasn't sleeping. Dad said he was distracted at work. Mom asked what I wanted to do, keep fighting, switch schools, or something else. I honestly didn't know. Mom and Dad agreed to give me time to think about it. They wouldn't make any decisions without my input. The next day at school, I kept my head down, tried to be invisible. It mostly worked until gym class when we had to choose teams for volleyball. I was the last person picked, and even then the team captain rolled her eyes like she was being forced to take me. During the game, no one would pass to me, even when I was in the best position. I pretended not to care, but it was humiliating. After school, I had therapy with Dr. Landry. I finally told her the whole truth about everything, including finding the pregnancy information on Yael's computer. I was afraid she'd judge me, but she just listened. When I finished, she said something that actually helped. You're not responsible for other people's lies, only for how you respond to them. That weekend, my parents took us to visit my grandparents in the next town over. It was actually a relief to be somewhere different with people who didn't know about any of the drama. Grandma fussed over how thin I looked and kept trying to feed me, while Grandpa taught Rodney some card tricks. For a few hours, things felt almost normal. Sunday night, Hunter texted me, asking how I was doing. We ended up texting for hours. He told me more about his relationship with Valeria, how controlling she'd been, checking his phone constantly, getting upset if he spent time with friends without her. He said the pregnancy lie was the most extreme thing, but looking back, he could see she'd been manipulating him all along. He apologized again for believing her lies about me, for not standing up sooner. He seemed genuinely remorseful, which helped heal some of the hurt. We agreed to be cautious but maybe try being friends. He suggested we could study together sometime, somewhere off campus to avoid drama. Monday morning I felt slightly better. Having Hunter believe me and apologize made a difference, even if the rest of the school still thought I was crazy. But when I got to first period, I noticed people looking at their phones and then at me again. My stomach dropped. Someone had created a fake profile using my name and picture on a dating app. The profile said I was looking for pregnancy roleplay and other disgusting stuff. Screenshots were circulating all over school. I wanted to die of embarrassment. I went straight to the counselor's office, but she was with another student. The secretary took one look at my face and let me wait in the empty conference room instead of the main office where everyone could see me crying. When I finally saw Miss Barnes, I showed her the screenshots. She looked uncomfortable, but said since it was created outside of school, there wasn't much they could do. I asked if they could at least make an announcement that it wasn't me, but she said that would just draw more attention to it. I called Mom from the office and she came to pick me up. I couldn't face the rest of the day with everyone thinking I'd created that profile. In the car, Mom was furious. She wanted to go straight to Valeria's house and confront her parents, but I begged her not to. That would just make everything worse. Instead, we went home and reported the fake profile to the dating app. They said they'd investigate, but who knows how long that would take. Dad came home early when Mom called him, and they spent the evening calling a lawyer friend, the school board, even the local police to see if this qualified as identity theft or harassment. The police officer wasn't very helpful. He said unless there were specific threats, it was a school issue, not a criminal one. Dad was frustrated, but Mom pointed out that involving police would just escalate everything even more. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining everyone at school looking at those screenshots, thinking that was really me. Around 2 a.m. I went downstairs for some water and found Dad still up, researching cyber harassment laws on his laptop. He looked so tired but determined. It made me feel both loved and guilty for causing so much trouble. The next morning I forced myself to go back to school. Mom offered to let me stay home, but I knew hiding would just make the rumors worse. I put on my most confident outfit, black jeans, boots, and the denim jacket I always get compliments on like armor. In English, Mr. Benson paired us for peer editing, and everyone shifted anxiously when he called my name. He ended up partnering me with Jane, a quiet girl who usually sits in the back. To my surprise, Jane was actually normal with me. She didn't act weird or avoid eye contact. She just asked about my essay and gave thoughtful feedback. When class ended, she mentioned she'd seen the fake profile and knew it wasn't really me because the writing style was completely different. It was such a small thing, but knowing even one person didn't believe the worst about me felt huge. At lunch, I was heading to the library again when Hunter texted, asking if I wanted to meet in the music practice rooms. They're small soundproofed rooms where band kids practice, but they're usually empty during lunch. I agreed even though I was nervous about being seen with him. We sat on the floor, sharing his earbuds, listening to a new album he thought I'd like. We didn't talk much about the drama, which was a relief. It was just 30 minutes of normal teenage stuff. Music, complaining about homework, talking about movies. When the bell rang, he checked the hallway before we left, and we went in opposite directions. That weekend, Hunter asked if I wanted to go hiking at the state park with him and his cousin who was visiting from college. It wasn't exactly a date, but it was a chance to hang out away from school drama. Mom was hesitant but agreed after I promised to keep my phone on and text her every hour. The hike was exactly what I needed. Fresh air, physical activity, and conversation that had nothing to do with high school nonsense. Hunter's cousin, Matt, was cool and treated me normally since he didn't know anything about the drama. For a few hours, I remembered what it felt like to just be a regular teenager. When Hunter dropped me off, he awkwardly asked if I might want to go to a movie sometime, just the two of us. I said yes before I could overthink it. He looked relieved and smiled. The first genuine smile I'd seen from him in weeks. Monday at school, things took another turn. The fake dating profile had been taken down. But now there were rumors that I was secretly dating Hunter. Someone had seen us at the state park and jumped to conclusions. By third period, Valeria had heard about it. She cornered me in the bathroom between classes. For a minute, I thought she might actually hit me. She looked so angry. Instead, she just stared at me and said I would regret trying to steal her boyfriend. I pointed out that he wasn't her boyfriend anymore, and she wasn't pregnant either. Her face got all blotchy, and she stormed out without washing her hands. At lunch, I told Hunter about the bathroom confrontation. He looked worried and suggested maybe we should cool things off for a while. I felt disappointed, but understood his reasoning. The last thing either of us needed was more drama. When I got home, Valeria had posted another vague Instagram about girls who don't respect relationships and karma coming for liars. She didn't tag me, but everyone knew who she meant. The comments were full of her friends posting supportive messages and snake emojis. I decided to delete Instagram from my phone again. I didn't need to see that toxic stuff. The next morning, someone had written "boyfriend stealer" on my locker in Sharpie. The janitor tried to clean it off, but you could still see the ghost of the words. Principal Matthew saw it and finally seemed to take things more seriously. He called me to his office and asked if I knew who might have done it. I said I had my suspicions but no proof. He surprised me by saying they would review the hallway security footage. After school, Hunter texted to check in. Despite his suggestion to cool things off, he still wanted to make sure I was okay after the locker incident. We ended up talking on the phone for an hour that night. He told me Valeria had been texting him constantly, sometimes angry, sometimes apologizing, sometimes threatening to tell everyone he pressured her into faking the pregnancy. He finally blocked her number. The next day at school, I was called back to Principal Matthew's office. To my shock, Valeria was there too, looking sullen. The principal informed us that the security footage showed Valeria writing on my locker. She was being given in-school suspension for vandalism and harassment. Valeria didn't even try to deny it. She just glared at me like this was somehow my fault. Principal Matthew warned us both that any further incidents would result in more serious consequences. He also mentioned that my previous suspension was being reviewed in light of new information. I left his office feeling vindicated, but also nervous about potential backlash. If Valeria was angry before, she would be furious now. But at least the school was finally taking action instead of dismissing everything. When I told my parents about the suspension, they were cautiously optimistic. Dad said it was about time the school did something, while Mom worried it would just make Valeria more determined to retaliate. The next few days were strangely quiet. Valeria was in-school suspension, and without her actively stirring things up, the drama seemed to die down a bit. People still whispered sometimes, but it felt less intense. Jane and I worked on our English project together, and Hunter and I continued our secret lunch meetings in the practice rooms. On Friday, Hunter officially asked me to go to a movie with him on Saturday. Not as friends, as a date. I said yes, even though I was nervous about how people would react. We agreed to go to a theater in the next town over to avoid running into anyone from school. The date was both wonderful and awkward. We were both so nervous that we barely talked during the first half of the movie. But afterward, over pizza, the conversation finally started flowing. We talked about everything. Our families, our plans after graduation, our favorite music. It felt normal and nice. He held my hand as we walked back to his car, and I didn't even worry about who might see us. When he dropped me off, we sat in his car talking for another hour. He apologized again for believing Valeria's lies, and explained how manipulative she had been throughout their relationship. When he finally kissed me goodnight, it felt like the first good thing to happen in months. Of course, by Monday morning, someone had spotted us at the pizza place, and word had spread. The whispers started again as soon as I walked into school. In the bathroom, I overheard two girls discussing whether I had stolen Hunter from Valeria, or if he was just using me to make her jealous. Neither considered that maybe we actually liked each other. Valeria was back from suspension and clearly knew about the date. She walked past me in the hallway and deliberately bumped my shoulder hard enough to make me drop my books. She didn't say anything, just gave me a cold look and kept walking. At lunch, Jane waved me over to her table. As I sat down, she quietly warned me that Valeria and her friends were planning something. She didn't know what exactly, but she'd overheard them talking about teaching me a lesson. I thanked her for the warning and tried to act normal through lunch, but inside I was panicking. After school, I told Hunter about Jane's warning. He looked worried and offered to drive me home. As we walked to the parking lot, we saw Valeria and three of her friends waiting by my usual route. Hunter put his arm around my shoulders and walked confidently past them. They didn't do anything except glare, but it was intimidating nonetheless. In the car, Hunter suggested we should just go public with our relationship. He argued that sneaking around made it seem like we had something to hide, which just fed into Valeria's narrative. I was scared of the backlash but agreed it might be better than constantly looking over our shoulders. The next day we walked into school together. not hiding the fact that we were now a couple. Valeria's reaction was exactly what I expected. By lunch, she had posted a long, dramatic Instagram story. She didn't name names, but included enough details that everyone knew who she meant. Her friends were shooting daggers at us in the cafeteria. That weekend, Hunter and I went to the mall together, openly as a couple. We ran into a few people from school, but most just nodded and went about their business. Someone took a picture of us, probably to send to her, but we decided not to care. My parents have relaxed a little as things have improved. Mom still checks in more than she used to, but she's not hovering constantly. Dad has been teaching me to drive his car on weekends, which gives us time to talk without directly discussing all the drama. Yesterday was the last day of school before break. As I was cleaning out my locker, Tiffany walked by with some other girls. Instead of the usual dirty looks, she just nodded. Summer starts tomorrow. I'm focusing on my driving test, getting ready for college applications, and trying to rebuild my life. My family is closer now. I know who my real friends are. Not many, but that's okay. And I've learned more about myself than I wanted to. If anyone's in a similar situation, my only advice is to find at least one person who believes you, and remember that high school, even though it feels like your whole world right now, is temporary. The people who matter will eventually see the truth. Thanks for sticking with my mess of a story. It helped more than you know just to get it all out. Seriously, what do you guys think? Have you ever felt like you were the villain in someone else's warped story, even when you felt completely justified? I'd love to hear your thoughts.